He gonna swing on me. I ain't did nothing to that man, bro.
Even the most experienced partygoers were left stunned by what transpired last night. It was one of those occasions when the city's most prestigious nightclub felt electrified. The music was loud, the lights were flashing, and the room was crowded with celebrities, influencers, and everyone else in between. However, while most people had come to dance and relax, 3 familiar faces had unresolved business, and things were about to get ugly.
I just had to cool off, right? Just get my mind right, man, you know. But I really gotta get this off my chest, man.
The VIP area was bustling, but Kirk Frost and young Jock weren't their typical boisterous, gregarious selves, dressed to impress. They were positioned in their corner booth like kings looking over their court, but something wasn't right. They had drinks in their hands, but neither was actually drinking. Instead, their gazes were constantly scanning the crowd. The ordinary clubgoer thought they looked hip as the Jock leaned in to speak to Kirk, who hardly nodded while maintaining eye contact with the center of the dance floor. And calm, but their nonverbal cues conveyed a different message. People from all around them were arriving, but Kirk and Jock weren't there to party. Their VIP booth provided them with the perfect view of the space, and they didn't waste any time waiting for someone to arrive. Then, without realizing that trouble was on the way, there was Lil Scrappy. He came in like he owned the place, with a big smile, confidence, and a familiar swag in his walk. The moment he entered the room, he was surrounded by his people-embracing fans, hugging those he knew, and taking photographs with partygoers while obviously having fun and laughing loudly. As is always the case when Scrappy makes an appearance, the club's atmosphere changes as people gravitate toward him. However, while most were drawn to the fun, a few astute observers noticed something else in that dimly lit VIP booth across the room. Not only were Kirk and Jock still imprisoned in their stairwell, but they were also diligently examining every shift. Even the DJ, midway through a transition, slowed his tempo a bit as if he was trying to figure out where the energy was going. But every spotlight cast a shadow, and Scrappy was about to step right into it. Back at the VIP booth, things became even quieter as Kirk leaned in again. Scrappy made the tension subtle, but everyone who noticed could feel it thick in the air. One dancer near the bar paused mid-twerk and turned to look towards Scrappy's booth. Speaking lower, Jock nodded, looked at his phone, then raised his head and looked around the club. The atmosphere between them had stopped being playful, and he gestured with his chin towards Scrappy's section. Kirk followed the movement, eyes narrowing, not smiling, not sipping, just watching as a waitress arrived with another round of drinks, but stopped when she got to their booth because of the expressions on their faces. She put the bottle down carefully, didn't say anything, and backed away, sensing the tension. The real people in the room knew something was happening even though camera phones weren't yet out. A few people sitting close to Kirk's booth noticed how still he and Jock appeared to be waiting for a moment. Scrappy, on the other hand, was still laughing, but one of his friends leaned in and whispered something. Scrappy glanced over his shoulder toward Kirk and Jock's booth for a brief moment, long enough to allow the moment to linger in the air. They weren't merely observing, they were waiting. The calm quickly broke, and Kirk and young Jock eventually left their VIP area and began to move through the crowd. The energy around them changed as soon as they did, and you could see people moving aside. It wasn't loud or yelling yet, but something about their movements made everyone pay attention. Scrappy was still in the middle of the dance floor, still feeling the energy of his people, but he saw the movement coming directly at him. As Kirk and Jock approached, he turned and nodded as if he was trying to maintain a cool "what's up?" Jock didn't smile in response to Scrappy's question, which he asked with his arms spread wide. He didn't sound anxious yet, just curious, perhaps even a little apprehensive. Kirk didn't reciprocate the gesture. Instead, they stood so close that they didn't even consider personal space anymore. The music abruptly became too loud for the tension in the air, but the tone quickly changed, and what began as words swiftly turned into something much more intense. Jock leaned in first, his voice still low, but his words were clear enough for us to hear. He looked him in the eye and said, "Scrap, you've been talking too much." Scrappy furrowed his brow in confusion and said, "You know exactly what playing both sides is, smiling in our faces and then running your mouth behind the scenes." That's when the real weight dropped. Kirk took out his phone and held it up as a badge of proof because he believed that this wouldn't come back to us because we had the receipts. "You were at the studio last week behaving crazily and Jock got in again. Do you think people are devoted to you because they emailed us everything?" Scrappy glanced at the phone and then turned back to Kirk, saying, "That wasn't even the entire conversation. You guys are taking things out of context. I said what I said, but it wasn't how you're trying to twist it." His voice rose slightly, but Kirk didn't flinch, and he replied, "Context or not, you said it, period." The scene was becoming more intense as the so-called proof was in hand. Scrappy's face turned crimson, and his normally composed demeanor was shaken. He said, "Y'all are acting like I'm some snake, but I have been real with both of you. More times than I can count, you guys. A Scrappy snap, you think I'm afraid of receipts because half of you are fake anyway." The volume had changed, and everyone who hadn't noticed before was now watching phones. The DJ turned down the music a little, and security at the edge of the dance floor began to move in just enough to be ready. "You want to show the rest of the people what you said and how you were talking slickly about me when I wasn't around." The statement hit hard. Jock stepped forward, but Kirk stopped him, saying, "Let him talk, let him get it all out." But Scrappy wasn't calming down, so I held you all down, and now because of a few words out of context, you're ready to burn it all. The crowd was getting close, but not too close. It seemed like everyone in the club knew that was about trust, pride, and respect being tested, and you could feel it in the air. The last spark that would ignite it all was only a few seconds away.
I have nobody if y'all ain't with me. I don't have nobody.
I'm with you.
Like all that talking, cuz I need y'all to show me, cuz, for real.
When the yelling peaked, neither Jock nor Scrappy was giving up. The Jock remained motionless as Scrappy moved closer and closed the small gap between them until they were chest to chest. When Kirk saw it happening, he leaned in and gave Scrappy one last warning. "You might want to fall back before it gets real," he said, but Scrappy was past that point. "It already is real," he said. A second later, Jock pushed forward just enough to get a reaction, and that was it. Scrappy gave him a hard push in the chest, and the Jock staggered back, bumping into someone nearby. A drink flew from a table glass, shattering the music. Did not even have time to cut before chaos broke out. Kirk lunged forward, and everyone around them moved in. One of Scrappy's boys jumped in to pull him back, but that only led to more pushing. A second member of Scrappy's crew slipped while attempting to step in, knocking into another VIP guest. Drinks spilled, chairs tipped, and the crowd, which had been watching in silence, was now caught in the middle of a real fight. Some people began recording while holding their phones high as the dance floor descended into a flurry of shouting, shoving, and flashing lights. The nightclub wasn't just watching. They were witnessing a full-fledged fight. Security was not wasting any time. In a matter of seconds, bouncers hurried in from all sides, dressed in all black and moving deliberately. One grabbed Kirk from behind and pulled him out of the circle, and another moved between Jock and Scrappy before any blows could be exchanged. Even after one of Scrappy's men shoved the security guard away while yelling, "Don't touch him like that," his group wasn't slowing down. A woman adjacent screamed as a drink sprayed on her dress as the bouncers doubled down and used brutal force to force the party apart. The tables were moved, and the booth where Scrappy had been celebrating now appeared to have been hit by a storm. Club employees began moving in behind security as things started to settle down, helping to push back the crowd, picking up broken glasses, and attempting to keep other patrons from getting caught in the middle. The DJ realized the shift had stopped the music, and all noise stopped except for shouting coming from the front of the club, and Kirk and Jock were led out through a side entrance with 3 security officers surrounding them. No words, only clenched fists and irate eyes, with one man holding Scrappy by the arm and muttering, Let it go, not here. Scrappy's crew was dragged toward the other end of the club. Clubgoers outside who had just seen the action began sharing videos of it right away, with voiceovers saying, "Yo, that's Scrappy and Jock fighting." Never seen drama pop off like this at a club before. People weren't just reacting, they were picking sides. Someone said after uploading a 15-second video that received thousands of views in a matter of minutes. Everyone was out there, and the altercation might have lasted a few seconds. Some claimed Kirk and Jock were acting excessively, while others blamed Scrappy for making things worse. However, the fallout will be much longer because Kirk and Jock have business relationships throughout Atlanta, and Scrappy has club deals, public appearances, and collaborations planned with something this public. It's not just about bruised egos. There are actual repercussions, including lost endorsements, broken alliances, and possibly even legal issues if someone presses charges. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Please share your opinions in the comment section below, and remember to subscribe to this channel for additional updates.